Tekken, one of the most popular fighting game series in history, especially with the recent success of Tekken 7. But there's a lot of secrets that Tekken has below the surface. Some are quirky little bits of trivia, rumours or fun Easter eggs in the series, but there are some dark things that Namco would prefer you to forget. I made one of those lovely icebergs that you've probably seen because I've grown up with Tekken since I was a kid. I'm a big brain Tekken fan, I've got world records, I've got trophies, you name it. If it's happened, I know about it, so I deem myself the best person for the job. So hey, if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe and check out the other videos I make, because I make tons of cool videos on topics about Tekken and fighting games at large. Now exclusively for rumours, I'll be adding a confidence rating out of 10 for how confident I am of the topic I'm discussing, as in how confident I am whether a rumour is true or false, or of how confident I am of my take on a rumour. Alright, let's get into it and start looking deep at this iceberg. Tekken Cross Street Fighter's development purgatory. Oh boy, Tekken Cross Street Fighter, the forgotten crossover. Pretty much everybody knows about this game, but if you don't, I'll give you a super brief rundown. Back at Comic Con 2010, Harada and Murray invaded the Street Fighter panel and along with Ono, revealed the first Street Fighter Cross Tekken trailer and announced that Namco would be creating Tekken Cross Street Fighter in the future. It would be cool to see how the two fighters' gameplay would transfer with Tekken characters in Street Fighter and vice versa. Not that either fighter is unfamiliar with the other dimension. Tekken made a 2D Tekken Advance and Street Fighter had the EX series, but the gameplay styles of the two games couldn't be any more different. Well, Street Fighter Cross Tekken was a real gem of a game. And while the 2011 version fixed almost all of the issues with the game, by that point they'd lost all their audience. Matt McMuscles made a fantastic video on what went wrong with the game, which I highly recommend you watching if you're interested in the details. But the main gist is the issues with disc lock paid DLC, timeout issues, weird guest characters, the fucking gems, and a bunch of the game's unique characters ending up being ported to Street Fighter 4 in the end anyway. After all of this happened, Namco was very weary with releasing Tekken Cross Street Fighter. Namco released Tekken Tag Tournament 2 in 2012, which had its own issues that we'll get to later, but in interviews Harada mentioned that it was difficult to find the right time to release Tekken Cross Street Fighter. Both Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7 have been doing well on their own, and of course, Namco introduced Akuma as a guest character and even made him canon to the story. While Akuma undoubtedly helped with Tekken 7's amazing sales success, the character's introduction in the game is highly polarized due to balance issues and complaints that his core gameplay breaks the fundamental gameplay rules of Tekken. Things like his jump crushing moves, like mids and jabs, which is normal in Street Fighter but not normal in Tekken, where characters don't naturally have moves designed specifically as anti-airs. Because of this and other 2D characters, namely Geese and Eliza, audience reception to releasing Tekken Cross Street Fighter is mixed. Tekken fans don't have as much confidence that Namco can effectively balance the game like Tekken Cross Street Fighter, and it doesn't seem like Namco have much confidence either. Harada did release a short video showing a work in progress of the game, but this was before Tekken 7 released. While Namco insists the game is still in development, it's a coin flip whether the game will ever see the light of day. If it doesn't come out soon, it's likely it never will. This is a very quick on some very recent developments regarding Tekken Cross Street Fighter. This topic recently came up in the most recent episode of Harada's Bar, which is a YouTube series that Harada's been doing. He mentioned that the game is currently on hold, is about 30% through development, and mentioned some of the concept art and characters like Chun-Li and Dhalsim that look exceptionally good in the game so far, but the media reported that the game was cancelled due to a mistranslation. Harada made a tweet longer and confirmed that the game is actually not cancelled, is pending, and they are simply waiting for the right time. Jeff Slater, the man himself, the Vale Tudo World Champion. After Marduk was imprisoned for killing the original Armor King in a drunken bar brawl, Jeff Slater became the new world champion and then confronted Marduk and asked for a match in Marduk's Tekken 4 ending, only to get swiftly knocked out with a fat headbutt. Fans have recently been calling on Twitter for Jeff Slater to become a playable character, with memes and hashtags, and hey, Namco seems to love clone characters, so maybe the world champion might one day get some love. Eddie Gordo in Tekken 5. Eddie was actually a hidden character in both Tekken 4 and 5, but it took an extra step to use him in 5. While players who went through Christie's story mode would know that Eddie is in the game, he's actually hidden as Christie's third purchasable costume in the customization section. Buy him for 500,000 G's, pick triangle on Christie, and you can play as Eddie. He even has his own ending in theater mode, although it's identical to Christie, so it's a bit weird really. Death by Degrees, also known by the very catchy Tekken's Nina Williams in Death by Degrees. This is a really generic action-adventure game released in 2005 that features Nina being hired by the CIA and MI6 to help infiltrate a criminal organization called Cometa. She fights a bunch of mooks until she fights Anna, who flies off in a helicopter because nothing of consequence was ever going to happen in a game like this. Arcade differences. There's lots of interesting arcade exclusive differences compared to the console releases. The arcade versions of Tekken 1 and 2 were released on Namco System 11, which was made in partnership with Sony to have near identical specs to the PlayStation for seamless ports. Despite this, Tekken 1 on the arcades looks notably better, while Tekken 2 is very hard to discern but seems to look slightly better on the arcade too. Tekken 2 also had multiple arcade releases. The original version, known as version A, missed some sound effects, some moves, and other moves had different notations compared to version B. The AI between both of the arcade versions and the console release were different too. Tekken 3 was released on Namco System 12, the primary difference being the CPU runs at 48 MHz compared to System 11's 33. This, along with other upgrades, means Tekken 3 Arcade looks considerably more polished than the console release. It's most notable in King's Stage, where there's even a 3D flying helicopter that doesn't appear in the console version. Tekken Tag's arcade release is on the same architecture as Tekken 3 Arcade, but because it was released on the PS2, it's the only console version that has superior graphics to the arcade release. After Tags, the arcade and console releases became near identical. There are some differences, such as Tekken 4 and 5 having unique arcade soundtracks, Tekken 5 getting a second arcade release known as Tekken 5.1, which fixed a lot of balancing issues and changed the life bar color. Finally, after Tekken 5 DR, every arcade version would be split in two, a vanilla version, and then an updated version with a new name that would be the basis for the console release. The differences between these updated versions and the console releases are slim to none, with most of the unique arcade differences ending after Tag. Dean Earwicker. In pre-release versions of Tekken 4, the original name for Steve Fox was Dean Earwicker. Fans did not receive the name well, and it was quickly changed to a slightly more normal Western English name. The name Dean Earwicker was used as a homage in Tekken 5's arcade mode, where a Tekken Lord Steve has the name Dean Earwicker. Devil's Transformations. In Tekken Tag Tournament, if you select Kazuya and Devil as your team, only one of them will appear in the pre and post fight poses. When you tag, it starts a transformation sequence that pushes the opponent back if they're close. While this looks really cool, it means that this specific tag team can't tag in any other way other than when standing, and the transformation is extremely slow and punishable. This meant that the team was practically unusable in competitive tag. The same is true for Jin and Devil Jin in Tekken Tag 2, although the transformation has a unique input for style points, so that the pairing can still function normally. It's unclear why Namco only decided to keep this Easter egg for the Devils and not for other pairings like the Ogres or Lee and Violet. Start plus Select and Arcade board options. These two tie together, all the way from the original Tekken up to Tekken 5 DR. At any point in the game you can press Start and Select to immediately back out to the main menu. This is an arcade feature that's presumably there as a failsafe for arcade managers or to just use to reset the game. Arcade cabinets also feature a debug menu that lets the manager modify the cabinet settings such as difficulty, round numbers, quick select, as well as other options that the console versions don't necessarily have. Most players would only see this in the arcade history versions of Tekken 1, 2 and 3. Dr. B in Tekken Bowl. In the original Tekken Bowl in Tekken Tag Tournament, Dr. Paskonovich is hidden in the crowd. you can actually choose to hit him or anybody else in the crowd, and when you play as Brian, his cyborg sensor will actually point Dr. B out of the crowd. World Tekken Federation. Man, this was sad. Back in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Namco also released a website known as the World Tekken Federation, which tracked player stats, allowed you to enter a clan with your friends, and enter a clan leaderboard to see where you rated in terms of online ranks and win-loss ratios compared to the other clans. While the site itself was well received, on a somewhat related note, there was some controversy as only one online pass was given out with a copy of the game, meaning players who bought the game pre-owned would have to pay for the luxury of signing up to the site and playing online. The site shut down on the 1st of September 2013, less than a year into the game's lifespan. The reason for this was unknown, but it's very likely because the site wasn't cost effective enough to keep up. Neither the site or the online passes returned in Tekken 7. Tekken 5's secret cutscenes. There are a few story mode secret cutscenes that you can only see in Tekken 5 by intentionally losing. One by intentionally losing to Jinpachi and intentionally getting the game over, one by losing to Paul with Law, one by losing to Raven with Yoshimitsu, and one by losing to Anna with Lee. Spicy. Gold Azazel. Gold Azazel appears at the very end of Scenario campaign but can't be fought then. In an arcade mode run, if a player has 10 million points or over, Gold Azazel appears. He does 1.5 times the damage, has double the health, and gives the player 2 million G's when defeated. Tekken 2's cheat codes. Tekken 2 is the only game in the series that has cheat codes. These codes are only usable once you've unlocked the second logo with Kazuya's eyes on the main menu. There were a few codes: Big Head mode, Super Juggle mode, First Person View, and Wireframe mode. Tekken's DLC leaks. Harada used to boast that Tekken had never had any information leaks, and then 2 DLCs were leaked in a row. The Fakumaman Gamu DLC were leaked on the morning of the announcement, because the Microsoft Store put it on their site too early. Then the Kunimitsu DLC got leaked before the announcement, because Microsoft Brazil put it on their site too early. Microsoft really out here ruining Harada's perfect streak. Tekken Force characters in Tekken 3. With Action Replay or a similar code system, you can play as the Tekken Force characters in regular game modes. Their names are Crow, Hawk, Falcon, and Owl, and their move lists are just an amalgamation of other characters. Now we get to the slightly more obscure facts. Most people will know the majority of these, but these are the kinds of fun facts that you mention to your friends. Let's have a look. Gold Tetsujin. If you win 10 matches in a row in versus mode with Tetsujin, he becomes gold. As soon as you exit out of that particular session and go back to the main menu, you lose access to Gold Tetsujin again. Elise's censored chainsaws. In the Korean arcade and console releases of Tekken 6, Elise's chainsaws are censored and are instead some kind of lightsaber ripoff. Really, really unique. Snake in Tekken 7. This one is a doozy. At EVO 2019, just after the losers finals, a clip plays. So that clip was actually done by the EVO organizers, and they did not tell Namco, Konami, or even the voice actor of Snake, David Hayter, who they hired to do that they were going to do that joke. It was apparently only a surprise for the people in the audience, but it made people believe that Snake was going to be in Tekken 7. You can even hear Markman play it down as just something for somebody, something for the people in the audience, while Ares is losing his mind. Markman is actually aware that this was going to happen, and maybe try to tell the organizers not to do it. That's just a rumor, but yeah, that happened, and Evo almost got into a lawsuit over it. Namco were extremely upset. David Hayter was extremely upset. Yeah, maybe you should probably run that by people before you pour some kind of weird joke like that. Lars in Naruto. Lars in Tekken 6 has an alternate costume that was created by Masashi Kishimoto, who is the mangaka of the Naruto series. After this, Bandai Namco decided to add Lars into Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 2, where he's a playable guest character. Pink Mohawk Punk in Tekken 6. In both Anna and Lei's endings in Tekken 6, a pink Mohawk Punk guy is shown getting beat up by Anna and escaping from Lei in a downtown cop chase. Devil Possession. In Tekken Tag Tournament, if you pair Jin with Heihachi, you can do a unique button input to activate Devil Possession stance, which only lasts for the next move that Jin does, but allows him to access secret moves that he otherwise cannot usually access, but are extremely powerful. This stance remains in Tekken 4 and 5, disappears in Tekken 6, but then reappears in Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Unknown is Jun's sister. In Tekken Tag Tournament's concept art, it was revealed that the original concept for Unknown was to be Jun's sister and Jin's aunt. This was made ambiguous in the main Tekken Tag Tournament game whether Unknown actually is Jun or is just related to Jun. But in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, they decided to make Unknown Jun. But don't forget, both Tekken Tag Tournament and Tekken Tag Tournament 2 are non-canon games. So whether Unknown even exists in the Tekken universe is unknown. Galaga. Galaga has crossed over with Tekken quite a lot. In the original game, Galaga was fully playable the whole 8 stages before the Tekken screen started up. In Tekken 6, the Galaga rockets appear during the scenario campaign, and the ship also flies over the screen occasionally in the roulette. And there was a whole mobile game released called Galaga Tekken 20th Anniversary Edition in 2015, where you would fight against several Tekken characters, finally competing against Heihachi Mishima. Idolmaster. The Idolmaster series is reportedly a favourite of Harada's, and they very recently had some crossover. Some Idolmaster costumes have been free DLC for some Tekken 7 characters as of recent. The Tekken 3 Daisy advert. There is a Milk advert that features Tekken 3 gameplay with a cow called Daisy fighting in a cliff stage that has never been seen in Tekken 3 before against Law. Daisy expertly dodges all of Law's attacks and then kicks Law twice, booting him off of the stage and getting a perfect. Funnily enough, Daisy also has the same hit spark as Law. I guess they couldn't go to that much effort to get her a unique hit spark. Devil in Tekken 1. Surprisingly, Devil does actually exist as a playable character in Tekken 1. Well, a playable costume for Kazuya. The only way you normally would get to see Devil is by fighting through Heihachi's arcade mode, where Devil Kazuya is the final boss. But if you complete all 8 stages of Galaga, then you can unlock and play as Devil yourself by pressing start on Kazuya. This is actually revealed in the official Tekken 1 game guide as well. There's no gameplay differences between the two characters. Kazuya is just purple. Headbutt Carnival and Infinite Slaps. Heihachi, when fighting against the male characters, has a unique grab, forward 1+4. The opponent can retaliate with either a 1 or a 2 and hit Heihachi back. If Heihachi correctly guesses either 1 or 2, then he can headbutt them back, and again the opponent then has a chance to retaliate with either 1 or 2, and it becomes an infinite loop. The Infinite Slaps is Anna's back 2-2, and a female character can actually slap Anna back mid-slap and even get a full juggle depending on the character. Tekken Card Tournament. This was a mobile and browser game released in April 2013, where you could collect new character cards and move attack cards. The gameplay was very rock, paper, scissors-esque. You could either focus to obtain a new card, add it to your hand, strike, attacking with all of your own card, or blocking to block 2 of your opponent's attacks. It's a turn-based game, and it was finally dropped in 2017. Jun and Kazuya in Tekken 3. It's pretty well known that both Jun and Kazuya were considered for Tekken 3. There's code of both characters existing in Tekken 3 Arcade that people have hacked into the main game, and also re-added retroactively into Tekken 3 console. Jun has Nina's skin, but she has a unique portrait and name, and Kazuya has Jin's moveset. More on this a little bit later. E3 2006 trailer. This trailer featured a very hyper-realistic Jin with sweat coming off of his pores, where he fights against Lily in some kind of abandoned chapel that looks a little like the Antares stage from Tekken 5. Midway through the fight, Horain jumps through the window in a bike, which did suggest that maybe there's some kind of active stage presence, maybe alluding to floor and wall breaks, but nothing quite on the scale of, for example, the Dead or Alive series. Mushroom Battle. This is a unique mode in Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Wii U Edition, where characters will attempt to collect power mushrooms to grow inside, and will have to avoid poison mushrooms so they don't shrink in size. Obviously, the bigger you are, the more powerful your attacks are, and the smaller you are, the weaker your defense is. Other Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Wii U exclusive stuff includes the Tekken Ball mode and some unique Nintendo costumes. Don't ask where for shirt. Sorry. This is a rather unique meme that Harada has perpetuated ever since he was photographed wearing a "Don't Ask Me for Shit" t-shirt, because of the ridiculous and ludicrous fan requests that he often gets on his Twitter. Yun Heihachi in Tekken 3DS. In Tekken 3DS Prime Edition, it's almost an identical port to Tekken 6, but there are two main changes. One is that Tekken 6 Heihachi is replaced with Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Heihachi, most likely because of the fact that Tekken 6 Heihachi's original voice actor Daisuke Ono had already died at this point, so they may have decided to just add Tekken Tag 2 Heihachi in since it was already complete and it made a bit more sense. And also the strategic space stage from Tekken Tag 2 is in this version as well. Tekken Zaibatsu. Tekken Zaibatsu was the most popular Tekken fan site and forum for over 2 decades. The site originally existed as Tekken.net, but very quickly changed to TekkenZaibatsu.com. It was adminned by Castell, a legendary member of the Tekken community, and the site recently closed down in late 2020 as Castell felt it was too expensive to keep the site up. Since then, there have been some rumors and hopes that the sites will be archived, but we haven't heard anything just yet. Tekken Zaibatsu now exists as a Discord server, although it doesn't quite feel the same as the original forum. Every Tekken 4 stage is interlinked. There's a lot of facts that this is true. You can see in some concept art that the stages are interlinked. The parking garage and the mall are the same place, but Shinjuku is outside. The parking mall is connected to the airport. You can see glimpses of the shopping mall from the airport stage, and it's definitely true that all the Tekken 4 stages, with the possible exception of the Honmaru stage, are all in one city in Japan. Yoshimitsu from Tekken and Soul Calibur are from the same clan. This is pretty strongly true that the Manji clan has existed all the way from Soul Calibur through to Tekken, and that the current Yoshimitsu since the original Tekken, who is still the same Yoshimitsu by the way, Yoshimitsu in Tekken 7, yeah, that's a human. A cyborg in some aspects, but definitely still a human. But anyway, yes, the Soul Calibur Yoshimitsu, the clan has existed all the way from that time until the present day Tekken series. And this is also confirmation that the Soul Calibur and Tekken universes are interlinked. It'll be interesting to see how Soul Calibur manages that, and whether Soul Edge or Soul Calibur ever appear in the Tekken series. This is where things start to get a little bit deep. The entries from this next section are either very obscure facts and Easter eggs, are region exclusive, or maybe hidden in the game files, or are obscure rumors and references that have No true answer. Let's dive into darker depths. Tekken 7 has 3 frames of rollback. This is a very popular meme in the community that started when Harada responded to criticisms of Tekken 7's netcode and requests to implement GGPO style rollback netcode. Harada tweeted that Tekken 7 already has 3 frames of rollback, which due to the language barrier was very hard to read into. Sajam and others made great videos and posts trying to understand exactly what this means, but to simplify, Tekken can't just use traditional rollback due to the 3D animations. It would look too jarring and unnatural. Tekken 7 has some kind of hybrid rollback system where it can roll back up to 3 frames when the game lags or jitters. At first the community didn't believe Harada, but some clips emerged showing the game state very clearly rolling back. Since Season 4's netcode improvements, this has been happening a lot more frequently, and while the netcode is a little better, it still isn't by any means perfect. Here's hoping Harada and the team can find a unique solution for the future. Red Thunder Godfist. In Tekken 4, Heihachi has access to some unique moves that he didn't have in other Tekken games. He got the Omen Thunder Godfist in Tekken Tag, but in Tekken 4 he received the Red Thunder Godfist, which looks very similar and is executed very similarly, but has a red hit spark. Rave War. The original name for Tekken, while it was still a prototype, was Rave War, but this was later changed to Tekken, translated to Iron Fist in English. Law has a move called the Rave War combo, which is likely a homage to the original name. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 almost killed the series. This is a popular fan theory that was somewhat confirmed by Michael Murray while commentating at a Tekken event. Tag 2 was the worst selling main game in the franchise and fell below early estimations. It's believed the poor sales are due to the lack of strong advertising for the game and the game's high complexity, but we don't know that for sure. Murray said that he and Harada, quote, got a lot of flack from the higher-ups over the game's poor performance, and they took a chance with Tekken 7, which of course blew expectations out the water. Tekken 6 Arcade Stick. There's a limited edition of Tekken 6 which comes with a special Hori arcade stick for PS3 and Xbox 360. Not much else to say. It's the first Tekken game ever that doesn't include Heihachi in the roster. Kazumi in Tekken 2. In Heihachi's Tekken 2 stage, Heihachi and Kazumi's names are written on the floor in Aigasa, which is a romantic expression that shows love between couples. This was the first time Kazumi was mentioned in the series, and the character was rumoured to appear in Tekken for decades until she finally appeared in Tekken 7. Heaven's Fist rank. Heaven's Fist is the highest rank obtainable in Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, but it can only be obtained in a very unique way on the PSP version. With a character of its Dark Lord rank, the highest rank obtainable through grinding normally, the player must enter the dojo mode and fight Jinpachi in one of the few instances where you fight him through multiple dojos. If the player does this, they will have a promotion chance and be able to rank up to Heaven's Fist. The rank hasn't returned in future games. Tekken Arena. Tekken Arena was a free-to-play MMORPG that was released on iOS and Android on October 2013. It features a bunch of different characters, and apparently the story is that G-Corp was holding MMA competitions across the globe in order to recruit the greatest fighters in the world. Very interesting. Asuka sings. The scenery of landscape under the ghost Kaminano, Tekken 2 and Tekken Tag Tournament 2's credit themes, is Ryoka Shiraishi. However, this is a different person to Ryoka Shiraishi, who is the voice actress for Asuka Kazama. It's a pure coincidence that the two share the same name. Because the credit song is used in the two games where Jun is the most relevant, fans have tied the song to the Kazama line. Prototype Jack's item move nerf. In Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Prototype Jack has a claw crane item move that was an attack throw that always dealt 40 points of unscaled damage, even to airborne opponents. However, because the move was so strong, it was quickly nerfed and only did 20 damage, which made it way less useful. It's no surprise Namco did this as item moves are supposed to be joke moves that aren't strong or practical, and if they had left this, it would have raised legitimate questions on whether item moves should be allowed competitively, as it would have made Prototype Jack considerably stronger than he normally was in Tag 2. However, this is the only time an item move has ever been nerfed in Tekken history. Anna's uncensored ending. I'll keep this one short. In Tekken 3, Anna's ending was modified in overseas ports. In the Japanese version, Nina strips her bra, leaving her topless in front of a bunch of guys. This was changed in the European American versions to make Anna just walk away. You can find the uncensored ending in the description if you're interested. I'm not showing it here because I don't want my account to get striked. Secret tag moves. There are a few secret moves in Tekken Tag Tournament and Tekken Tag Tournament 2 that require you to have a certain partner. In Tekken Tag Tournament 1, Paul can perform the Rainbow Kick if he's paired up with Forest Law. In Tekken Tag 1, Kuma and Pana can perform Heihachi's back 2, the Demon Bear or Demon Boar, if they are paired with Heihachi. Lee can perform the Silver Tail to Silver Fang, which is full crouch down forward 4, 2, 2, 1, if paired with Kazuya. In Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Kuma can still perform the back 2 if he's paired with Heihachi, while Pana can perform Lean's down back 1 as down back 1+4 if she's paired with Zhao Yu or Miharu. JC can perform Michelle's forward 3-1 as down forward 3-1 if paired with Feng, Lei, Lean, Michelle, Miharu or Wang. And finally, Jin can perform the Omen stance in both Tekken Tag 1 and Tekken Tag 2. Tekken 7's models are lower quality than Tekken Tag Tournament 2's. If you compare some Tekken 7 models to their Tag 2 counterparts, you can very, very clearly tell that the level of detail is considerably worse. Why exactly did this happen? It's hard to say for sure, but a popular theory is that Namco just messed up some settings in Unreal Engine 4. The engine has a level of detail filter where the closer you are to a texture, the higher the detail will be. If Namco messed up this setting, it would explain why some textures, particularly the hair, look way worse may do in Tag 2. Why Namco hasn't fixed the quality in so many years? Who the hell knows. Tekken Card Challenge. This is a unique Tekken game released exclusively in Japan for the WonderSwan in 1999. It is a turn-based card game where players attack each other with different cards. Harada voices Law and Yoshimitsu, specifically the hit sounds. The samples that Harada provided stopped being used from Tekken 6 onwards, but apparently he's voiced these characters since the original Tekken. Kazuya speaks English. In the Tekken 7 reveal trailer, Kazuya has an English voice actor. The Tekken characters had English VAs in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, but this made people wonder if there had been multiple language options in Tekken 7. This wasn't the case, as every character continued to speak their native tongue in Tekken 7. Law the Dragon. In early arcade releases of the original Tekken, Law was referred to as Law the Dragon by the announcer. Take a listen.
Law the Dragon.
Tekken 6 Arcade Stick. There's a limited edition of Tekken 6 which comes with a special Hori arcade stick for PS3 and Xbox 360. Not much else to say. Taiko no Tatsujin. A couple of Tekken songs have appeared in several Taiko no Tatsujin games, Karma from Tekken 6 and Hite's Shadow from Tekken 7. The Taiko drum has also appeared as an item in Tekken 7 and plays where a character is performing a rage art and doing their win pose. Dragunov can talk. While players believe that Dragunov is a mute, he has talked in this series, specifically during some dialogue in his Tekken 6 scenario campaign against Raven. Soul Calibur 3 music in Tekken 5. One composer, Junichi Nakatsuru, worked on both Tekken 5 and Soul Calibur 3. The two games were in production around the same time, and the music in Anna and Nina's Tekken 5 endings was extended into the Endless Warfare song from Soul Calibur 3. Take a listen to both. It's likely that Nakatsuru had already finished at least part of the Endless Warfare song and decided to reuse it for Anna and Nina's endings due to the concept of the endings. Either that, or Nakatsuru liked how the song sounded and decided to extend it into a full theme in Soul Calibur 3. Namco X Capcom and Project X Zone. These are two crossover JRPG series that feature characters from series that belong to Namco, Capcom, and in Project X Zone, Sega. This includes Tekken characters, and the game also features remixes of Tekken songs. Worth checking out if you haven't before. Tekken 7 DualShock 4. Only 20 of these unique DualShock 4 controllers exist. They were part of an exclusive giveaway that Namco did for Europe just before Tekken 7's release. There are also some unique Xbox One controllers, but the DualShock 4 ones were more prominent because the D-pad has a third analog stick in the middle of it. It's an interesting design choice. The motion picture. There are 4 full-feature Tekken films, and this was the first. It was based on the same time frame as Tekken 2, except the premise is the same as the original Tekken. Kazuya is the protagonist and Heihachi is the antagonist who sets up the tournament. However, it features Tekken 2 characters such as Jun, Lei and Jane, while the film makes lots of interesting deviations from the main plot. There's the infamous Anna shower scene that's likely inspired by the Chun-Li shower scene from the Street Fighter 2 movie. Then, while Alex was originally designed as a comedy character, here we are extremely serious, invisible dinosaurs that outright kill Anna and drive Lee to blow up the island and kill himself while Jack sacrifices itself so everybody can escape, including Kazuya and Jun. Heihachi escapes in a jet, and the film ends with Jun and a young Jin walking in the forest when Jun notices Ogre's presence and dismisses it. A very bizarre movie, but actually not the worst Tekken movie out there. This is where things start to get a little creepy. There's some puzzling and obscure stuff in here. Rumors and questions with no confirmed answer, secrets that have been abandoned to time, and other things that are just unusual. Let's chip away at the bottom of this iceberg and see if we can shed some light on these entries. Tekken 2 in 3 bootlegs. There are several bootleg versions of the PlayStation Tekken games on other systems. Tekken 2 for the NES, based on the original Tekken, Tekken 2 for the SNES, actually based on Tekken 2, and Tekken Special for the Mega Drive, also based on Tekken 2. The bootlegs are extremely janky and have ripped music from other games like Fighting Vipers, Virtua Fighter and Mega Man X3, and they're all 2D based. I might do a video covering all these bootlegs sometime. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested. Pac-Man Fever. This is a party game released for the GameCube and PS2 in 2002 exclusively in North America that includes Heihachi and Tiger Jackson as playable characters among a roster of other Namco characters. Being from the UK, I had never heard of this game or that there were Tekken characters in it before, so maybe more of you guys know about it than people over here do. Heihachi playing tennis. Not just Heihachi, several Tekken characters are unlockable in Anna Kournikova's Smash Court Tennis, namely Heihachi, Eddie and Yoshimitsu. Heihachi and Zhao Yu are also playable in Smash Court Tennis Pro Tournament 2, oddly enough with their Tekken 3 portraits despite this game releasing in 2004. Tekken Patchy Slots. There are a bunch of Tekken versions of patchy slot machines in Japan. Bizarrely, these patchy slots have totally unique character endings that are CG animated and get pretty wild. They even look somewhat canon based on how some of the endings seem to follow the premises of some Tekken 7 character endings, but we won't know that for sure without official confirmation. Paul and Law in Urban Reign. Both Paul and Law are guest characters in Urban Reign, a generic multiplayer beat-em-up released on the PS2 in 2005. Not much else to say. Ogre Eats You. If you game over to Ogre in Tekken Tag 2 or Tekken Revolution, you can't see your character during the game over screen. Once the timer gets to about 1 second left, you start to hear chewing noises suggesting ogres eating your character. Pretty grim for a Tekken game. Tekken Tag Tournament Turbo. This was a developer build of Tag 1 Arcade that was never publicly released. The community thought it was just a rumor until somebody asked Harada about it on Twitter, and he posted some gameplay of the build and even brought it to EVO 2019. The game is extremely fast and has super juggle mechanics. Everybody has Anna's intro and win poses, and Ganryu has a few of Devil's moves for some reason. It's unlikely we'll ever see an official release, so hope that Namco decides to bring the rare arcade board to another FGC event that you attend if you ever want to try playing this yourself. Tekken Revolution character poll. Namco once made a fan poll that allowed users to vote on a character to be added to Tekken Revolution. The choices were, in order of least to most popular, an average old man, Togo from Tekken 6, a giant praying mantis, which we'll talk about later, Ganmi-chan, who would be a female sumo that was a fan of Ganryu, female Paul, a salmon, which we'll get to later too, a zombie bride, Shin Kamiya from Tekken Blood Vengeance, a sexy female Tekken Force character, and finally, a female vampire, which became Elisa. The vampire and the sexy Tekken Force character had almost half of the votes by themselves, which tells you quite a lot, to be honest. Knowing what Elisa would eventually lead to for Tekken 7, it's so interesting to wonder how the series would have changed if another character was voted instead. Wooden SFX. In Tekken 5 and Tekken 5 DR, after selecting Mokujin, if you hold down on the D-pad before a match starts, Mokujin will have wooden sound effects when he's damaged. Take a listen. The Twin Towers in Paul's Tekken 2 stage. Paul's stage in Tekken 2 is downtown New York, and the Twin Towers appear in the background. It makes sense if they would, given Tekken 2 was released in 1995, but it's interesting to note that the towers have remained in the stage's background with each re-release of the game in digital stores. Sake in Tekken 3. As well as Jun and Kazuya, another scrap character in Tekken 3 was planned to be Sake, translated to literally mean salmon. It was literally supposed to be a salmon that flopped around the screen with the punch buttons and released eggs with the kick buttons. The story goes that Kuma was originally supposed to use Sake as a weapon, like he's done since the salmon item move in Tekken 6, but that Sake would also be a joke mid-boss. The idea was eventually scrapped, as it wasn't justifiable to make arcade users pay money to play as a salmon. But the character somewhat exists in the arcade version using Yoshimitsu's model, Jin's moves, and even has a unique announcer line. Take a listen. Unreal Engine 4 is buggy. This is likely the most controversial rumor in this video. There are a lot of hitbox issues in Tekken 7. In previous games, while there were some issues, highs behaved as highs, mids behaved as mids, and lows behaved as lows. In Tekken 7, every move has a unique hitbox, and its high, mid, low status only affects how you block it. In terms of crushing highs, lows, and even crushing mids, every move behaves completely uniquely. This has led to some very controversial issues, most notably moves such as hop kicks and 2D jumps crushing even mids and highs, and if a character has a single foot off of the ground, it's very likely that lows will whiff in situations where they absolutely shouldn't. This has led some people to believe that the issue lies in the game's logic not being ported over to Unreal Engine 4 as accurately as it should have been. Harada mentioned that porting the game over to UE4 was very expensive, and it could be a contributory factor to why the console release was delayed so much. A friend of mine who is a software developer, and who I'm going to keep anonymous, theorized that part of the issue could have been that the Japanese developers who worked on porting the game logic over to UE4 maybe didn't know what they were doing. Japanese dev houses are not well known in the industry for their amazing attention to detail. Issues like Fakirum's throw break window being shorter than regular command throws likely happened because the developers just copy and pasted code over from Tag 2's internal engine to T7 on UE4. Another issue is that Namco likely didn't work directly with Epic on making a tailored build and or solution that would work best with Tekken 7. When I say that Unreal Engine 4 is buggy, I don't actually mean the engine itself is buggy. I mean the port is buggy. Unreal Engine 4 doesn't know what crushing is. It's up to the developers to effectively port systems like crushing over to UE4 accurately, and that did not happen. Leo's gender. Oh boy, now this is a real hotbed. There's a lot of evidence to suggest Leo's true gender is one or the other, and whenever Leo's picked in a tournament, you know the chat and often the commentary too is just going to devolve into arguing over Leo's gender, like they're arguing over whether those melons are actually cantaloupes or are really just melons. Or are they grapefruit? Anyway, but Leo is a girl camp. Often mentioned that Harada revealed that Leo's real name is Eleonora I probably butchered that, sorry, at a conference, but many people didn't realize that Harada actually retracted that statement and said that name was just a concept and that Leo's gender was changed to be neutral. In Tekken 6 and Tag 2, Leo can equip both male and female customization items, while in Tekken 7, Leo can only equip masculine items. In Tag 2, Leo had a smaller body size in terms of game physics, but that doesn't mean a lot as characters such as Lei also have smaller body sizes. In Tekken 7, Leo has a medium body size, but so do characters like Kazumi and Master Raven, so again that doesn't mean very much. The Leo is a boy camp mentioned that in Leo's prologue text, it uses he and him pronouns to refer to Leo. Leo's win poses, where Leo says, is directly translated to, I'm a lucky boy. However, the original English win pose in Tekken 6 is simply lucky me, and there's no way to accurately translate that to German while retaining the gender neutrality. It may have been an oversight by the translators. Some Japanese patch texts have referred to Leo with male pronouns too, but the English versions haven't. This could also be a translation oversight on either side, so it's very hard to read into. My personal conclusion is, Leo is either non-binary, gender neutral, or is a transgender male from the earlier Tekken games where Leo was a cis female, identified completely androgynously, then shifted to a masculine presentation in Tekken 7. But ultimately, the community should not care about Leo's gender so much. Just use they and them pronouns or whatever pronouns fit your fan beliefs, but don't get heated when somebody has a different opinion to you. The whole point of the character is that Leo is supposed to be intentionally androgynous and ambiguous, so the more people read into Leo's gender, the more it's defeating the point of the character. This is an iceberg video, so I objectively went into as much depth as I could, but just let Leo be Leo. Publicly arguing over Leo's gender as much as the community has is only going to make gender non-conforming people in the community feel uncomfortable at how weirdly obsessed some people are over it. It's cool that Leo's gender doesn't really matter. Okay, rant over, let's get back to the video. Jinpachi and Kinjin in Tekken 4. This is an extremely interesting fact that has only recently came to light. The Tekken 4 announcer in the arcade version has hidden lines for practically all of the old Tekken characters, likely because Namco weren't sure if more old characters were going to come back in the console version and wanted the announcer to record a bunch of lines just in case. But I'll play the two most interesting lines now.
Kinjin, Jinpachi Mishima.
This is extremely interesting as Tekken 4 Arcade released as early as 2001. Jinpachi wasn't revealed in Tekken 5 Arcade until late 2004, and Kinjin released in Tekken Revolution as late as 2013. Certainly the team already had the concept for Jinpachi as early as 2001, and he likely tied into Honmari being the stage for Tekken 4's climax between Heihachi, Kazuya and Jin. It's possible that Jinpachi was intended to make an appearance as the true final boss of Tekken 4, but this could have been changed due to either time constraints or because Jinpachi didn't fit Tekken 4's atmosphere. Not that Fundoshi Heihachi was exactly a fitting boss either, but nonetheless. Kinjin is extremely interesting as well, as the character's line appears just after Tetsujin and Mokujin, so it's clear that the character is related to those two. It really does seem like Namco had the concept for a Mokujin King, or Kinjin, as early as Tekken 4 or maybe even earlier, but never pulled the trigger on the character until Tekken Revolution. Shin Kamiya in Tekken Tag Tournament 2. That's right, the invincible emo soy boy who died to like 2 Heihachi backbreakers was planned as a character in Tag 2 as well as Revolution. He was intended to be a special character on PS3 for fans who bought Tekken Hybrid as a reward, but the idea was scrapped. Whether it was because that would make Shin unviable for competitive play, or just because of time or budget constraints, or because Namco didn't think the character was popular, we'll never know. Poor Shin. Tekken was a model test. Originally, Namco made some Tekken characters as 3D model tests in 1993. It wasn't until they then hired several ex-Sega staff that they decided to make Tekken in 1994. And the rest, as they say, is history. Tekken 2's Theater Mode. This isn't talking about being able to watch Tekken 1 and 2's endings by inserting those discs while in Tekken 3's theatre mode. The Japanese version of Tekken 2 has a super secret theatre mode. After unlocking every character, start the game and Jinbei Namco presents text, hold diagonally up and right, select X and circle, and Tekken 2's theatre mode will appear. The Jin Kazama Discord account. Oh god, this is by far one of the most disturbing entries in this list. An unknown individual has been entering Tekken character discords under several accounts, but most notably an account under the name Jin Kazama with an icon of Jin wearing a fundoshi. The individual adds people and messages them, asking how they are and if they have Tekken 7 on Steam and Nvidia Ansel, which is a program that allows you to rotate the camera and take photos. The people who said yes to this will then be asked to take photos of Tekken characters in risque clothing in multiple angles. Most people immediately block this person, myself included. Others comply with the person's request, and a fearless few even asked this person questions. One person asked the individual to share some of their collection, and oh my god, there's a lot and it's fucking disturbing. So, who is this person? Nobody knows, but we do know from a screen cap of their phone that they're in the US Central Time Zone or UTC-6. Is it somebody trolling based on the depth and breadth of their hunt and their collection? Probably not. Who knows how long this individual's hunt of terror will continue for. Jin and Christy. In the 2010 live-action Tekken movie, Jin was dating Christy, which was a bit odd. Apparently, Chiaki Kuriyama was supposed to be portraying Lin Jiaoyu in the movie and would have been dating Jin instead, but this was disconfirmed by the actress. It's unknown whether the original plan was for Ling to be Jin's love interest in the movie, or if Christy was always the plan, but given that Harada said that the contract for the movie was, quote, tough, end quote, that Namco couldn't oversee or even give much advice for it, and that he was personally disinterested, I think fans were being a little too kind with this theory. Tekken animations and stages in Pokken Tournament. It's very well known that Pokken Tournament is heavily inspired by Tekken and references it, but in fact a lot of content was reused in the game. I mean, the Japanese name is literally Pokemon Tekken. Many characters use a lot of animations and moves that are straight up copied over from Tekken, and even 2 stages are used. The Magikarp Festival is the fishing boat stage from Tekken Tag 2, and Dragon's Nest is completely copied, name and all, from Tekken 5. The difference is that the sculptures and statues are replaced to be the legendary Pokemon Rayquaza. Zasalamel in Tekken. This is a very obscure fan theory, but it hasn't been completely disproved. Zasalamel is a Soul Calibur character who is immortal and originally wanted to find a way to use the powers of Soul Edge and Soul Calibur to die. But in Soul Calibur 4 he changed his mind on the brink of death after seeing a flash of the future and decided to live. His Soul Calibur 4 ending shows him in the modern day as some kind of businessman or agent, and given that we've already established that Soul Calibur and Tekken exist in the same universe, it's certain that Zasalamel would have observed the King of Iron Fist tournaments. Soul Calibur 6's canon reboot has slightly put a damper on this theory, but if any Soul Calibur character could ever become a canon part of Tekken, Zasalamel would be the most likely character to make that jump. Now we're at the very bottom. Half of these entries I wasn't even aware of myself before I started doing research. Others I stumbled upon deep in old archived websites, like venturing into the dusty basement of a huge library. A few of these entries I even found myself and haven't seen anyone talk about either. So we're about to shed light on the deepest, darkest secrets in Tekken history, many of which haven't been public knowledge in decades or have never seen the light of day until now. Here we go. Robert Miles and East 17. These are 2 artists whose songs have been sampled in Tekken songs. The first opening notes of Robert Miles' song Children are directly sampled in Tekken 5's Poolside and the Tekken 7 remix. I'm only going to play a couple of seconds to avoid copyright, but take a quick listen. Also, E17's Steam is sampled very heavily in Lei's Tekken 3 theme. Take a very quick listen. There's likely more tracks that are sampled in other games because Japanese composers love doing that, but let me know if there's any I missed in the comments. Tekken Tag Tournament beta gameplay. There's some very old beta gameplay of Tekken Tag 1's arcade port that exists. It was originally compiled by Tekken Zaibatsu's Castell and then preserved through the years. There's not a lot that's different, some moves and some stages, but it's cool to see the gradual transition of quality from Tekken 3 console to Tekken 3 arcade, this beta gameplay, Tag Arcade, and finally the Tag PS2 port. Holding 2 to get up faster. In every main Tekken game up until Tekken 6, you can hold down 2 or on a PlayStation controller triangle while standing straight up to get up 1 frame faster than you otherwise normally could. This allows you to block follow-ups that would normally otherwise be guaranteed, such as some low kicks after grabs. This technique was mostly lost to time, but was notably used by Tekken 2's AI in the last few stages. They were never cheating, they were just using a hidden technique. Giant Praying Mantis. The most obscure confirmed scrap character is the Giant Praying Mantis from Tekken 3. Code exists that proves this character was going to be made. The concept was that sometimes the animations would glitch and cause the model's arms to contort behind their back, which looked very similar to a mantis. The idea was that the character would be a powerful secret boss, but it was eventually scrapped. PS2 tech demo. Namco released a proof of concept PS2 tech demo showing Jin and Paul fighting in an enclosed arena. Not much is known about this tech demo, but it looks very graphically similar to Tekken Tag Tournament's console port and was released close to the same time. According to a comment on the video, the stage shown in the demo exists deep in the console port's code, but no footage has ever been released confirming that. Wayne is a pervert. Wayne has a secret intro pose where he gets very excited and calls his opponent hot, that he only has against the female Tekken characters, with the fortunate exceptions of Xiao Yu and Lily. The perverted old man is a part of Japanese humor, but it hasn't aged incredibly well in today's society. This might be a part of the reason why Wayne hasn't returned in Tekken 7. I'll show you the clip. Licensed music in Tekken 7 game files. When extracting Tekken 7's game files on Steam, the game's soundtrack is encoded in .wem files or Waveworks Interactive Sound Engine. However, there are hundreds of unreleased and in some cases unused tracks. Many are duplicates or stereo and surround sound copies of the same songs. There are many interesting finds in there. Some are prototype versions of songs from the main game, but a few are licensed tracks from artists. I have a full playlist in the description on Namco Music Center. The first is actually the King of Fighters 14 version of Geese's theme. It may have been considered as the final round theme for the Howard Estate stage, but something happened that made Namco decide to commission their own final round remix instead. The second licensed track is a song called Can't Undo This with 2 exclamation marks by Maximizer, which is definitely used as a sample for the Mishima building themes. Let me play just a couple of seconds so you get what I mean. The third is a song called Contact by Nouveau Riche. The former is Me and You Dirty Phonics remix by Nero, which I'm definitely not going to play. And the last is actually a remix of a song called Do You Feel by Hysteria. But bizarrely, I couldn't find the specific remix that's in the game files anywhere. Did one of the Tekken composers make their own remix? Let me play a couple of seconds of the original song and then of the remix. If you have any idea where this remix came from, let me know in the comments. Ogre speaks Japanese. This is a very recent discovery by MattJ155, but I'm going to link in the description below, so if you want to find out the in-depth information, check it out. Ogre always spoke gibberish in Tekken 3 and Tag Tournament, but by reversing his quotes, people discovered that he was actually speaking Japanese. It's hard to discern exactly what he says in each quote, but one particular quote he says is Saru mo ki kara ochiru, which is a Japanese proverb that means even monkeys fall from trees, which is an old saying that basically means that even the most skilled individuals at their crafts can make mistakes. If you want to find out what else Ogre says, check out Matt's video in the description. Dr. B's true stance. Dr. Bosconovitch in Tekken 3 is the most complex character in Tekken history. That's because he was designed to be intentionally complex and near impossible to use conventionally, and his Tag 2 version was considerably dumbed down. But deep in his move list he has a lot of secrets. The biggest secret that he has is that if certain conditions are met and the player executes precise inputs, for a couple of frames, Dr. B will enter a stance that is fan-dubbed as the true stance, where he essentially copies Heihachi and can perform any Heihachi move that is possible to start the execution of within 2 frames. It's extremely complex and fancy, but extremely cool. We'll never see Dr. Bosconovitch played at his true potential, which is a great shame. Rally Jackson. Before Eddie's alter ego was named Tiger Jackson, it was originally going to be called Rally Jackson. Again, players found code that confirm this in the Tekken 3 arcade port, and there's even a magazine that names Eddie as Rally Jackson. But old gameplay footage and rumours already existed before Tekken 3 officially released that confirmed that this was the case. Why his name was changed from Rally to Tiger, we'll likely never know. Lily's canon in Digimon. Lily and additionally Sebastian actually make canonical appearances in Digimon World Redigitized. I'm not going to go into detail about how they fit into the story, but they're apparently the first and so far only characters from another franchise to appear in Digimon, as far as I know, and they even have unique artwork which I'm placing on screen now. Tekken 3 stages are walled. This is one of those secrets that you may have had a suspicion of but was never documented until very recently. Tekken 3 stages actually do have limits, but because the camera constantly twists and turns directions as the characters attack and move, the action generally rotates in a circle, so it's rare to ever hit the edges of the stages. When you actually do hit a corner, there's no wall splat or anything like that, the characters just can't go back any further and there's only pushback on the opposite side during juggles and etc. It's worth noting that if you try to venture extremely far out of the infinite stages in later Tekken games in practice mode, the game will eventually display a warning, and if you go much further, will reset you back to the middle of the stage. It's worth trying in versus mode with infinite time though. Full Boko Heroes X. This was a tactical RPG/shooter crossover mobile game developed by CyberConnect 2 in collaboration with Namco, who held a limited time campaign where fans could obtain Tekken characters. The game shut down in 2019. Flight 222 to Amsterdam. In the airport stage in Tekken 4, you can hear an announcement play over the speaker. Take a listen. Tekken 3's upgrade card. Namco were originally planning multiple ways to fit Tekken 3 onto the PlayStation hardware. Because of the graphical quality and amount of content the game had, it was hard for the PlayStation to cope. Here is an excerpt from an interview with the US marketing chief of Namco, Mike Fisher. Fisher: Tekken 3 we have as an arcade machine out on the booth. This is at E3. Simply to remind people that we are working on the project, but we haven't announced anything except that it is coming out on PlayStation. We're hearing that it may arrive before Christmas in the US and Japan simultaneously. I go to bed every night and pray that will happen, but I can't say for sure. Can you get rid of this notion once and for all that the game will come with an upgrade? No. The reason why is I don't know yet. The R&D team basically has started the PlayStation version the day they finished the arcade game. As you know, it's done to a different arcade model board. A lot of people didn't think we could do Tekken 2 better than the original Tekken, but we managed to accomplish everything. There are a lot of other options available. I have no idea what they are doing, but I noticed that Last Bronx is a 2-disc fighting game. I don't know if that would apply to the technical challenges we have to deal with, but I do know that the team is looking at every possible option. Namco looked at multiple options, including splitting the game over several discs, and at one point started talks with Sony about making some kind of special cartridge or CPU or VRAM extension that would allow the PlayStation to run Tekken 3 at maximum fidelity and performance. Of course, this never came true, so it's safe to assume that Namco were able to successfully make the whole game work on one disc by just lowering the graphics a touch. Dragon's Nest lyrics. There are lyrics that play over the Dragon's Nest track in Tekken 5. Most of the lyrics are completely incomprehensible, but at the start of the track you can barely make out the names of several Tekken characters. Take a listen. Tekken FTP. As well as Tekken Zaibatsu, there was another extremely well-known site. Well, it was more of a server that included tons and tons of Tekken content and information, from old videos, trailers, FAQ files, guides, posts, and old tournament footage and results. This site was hosted on Metro.net by a member of the Tekken community known as Sleekatel, but unfortunately the site went down in the late 2000s and hasn't been restored since. It contained tons of old Tekken info, but unfortunately has just been lost to time. Virtua Fighter 2 vs Tekken 2. This is another infamous bootleg port, this time for the Sega Mega Drive, but it is a crossover between Virtua Fighter 2, Tekken 2 and Fighters Mega Mix. Most of the gameplay is based on Virtua Fighter 2, with Tekken characters models actually being remade and characters only having a handful of unique moves. Funnily enough, Nina Williams is on the box art but isn't part of the roster. Rage Mishima. This is, at least in my humble opinion, Tekken's most puzzling and least known secret. There were very, very strong rumours during the hype before Tekken 3's console release that a secret boss known as Rage Mishima would be released. And not just Rage Mishima, but every old character from Tekken 2 would be returning as well. I'm going to read out a few quotes from different websites. Take a listen to them and think on it, then I'll share my take. 7th of June 1997, from Gravedigger of Gravedigger's Tekken 3 page. I got this email from a friend, Scott Brewer, who thought I should check this out. It's been said many times that the Koreans have a chip that releases 8 characters plus Anna. My local arcade finally got this chip and I tried it out. Maybe I'll scan a pic and set it since most of you do not seem to believe it. The chars are stated already as Brian, Kuma, Heihachi, Ogre 1, Ogre 2, Julia, Gunjak and Mokujin. I will for now state many info for the new characters that nobody has ever said anything about, so that when the characters are really released, you know that I was telling the truth. 7th of June 1997, from TC of Twisted Tekken. The rumoured character Rage is no longer a rumour, my Tekken friends. My brother is stationed in Korea and he and I have this crazy obsession with Tekken. So anyway, I received a letter in the mail today about how the local arcade he has access to has a complete second bar of characters and 4 on a 3rd row. I love Tekken and I promise I am not lying about this info. He said that Kazuya was playable and so was Heihachi and both versions of Ogre. He saw somebody playing with some guy named Tiger, but he didn't see that guy on the screen to choose from, so maybe there is a code on how to access him. The best thing of all was Heihachi's newest relative, Rage. My brother said that this guy was so awesome. He had a few of Heihachi's moves, some of Kazuya's, and a whole hell of a lot of his own. I for one cannot wait for the States to get this guy. Another thing is that the shadow for the next sub-boss is supposedly Jun's. Namco has really overdone themselves this time. Just in case you are wondering, Ganryu, Kunimitsu and Armor King were the other 3 guys on the bottom row. I will update this info as I get it. 12th of June 1997 from TC of Twisted Tekken. Jun is with us. It's me again guys with some more awesome news. I just got off the phone with my brother because I wanted to confirm everything he sent in that letter. He stated that it was all true and got this. Jun is fightable, not playable, but he fought against her today. Also, 3 new fighters have a 3rd outfit. The one I'm most excited about was Paul. I'll skip a little bit. 13th of June 1997, my birthday by the way, from TC of Twisted Tekken. King now has a 3rd outfit and he's wearing King the First shirts and suspenders and he's not wearing a mask. The next shadow in Korea looks to be Lee Chaolan. Mokujin has a 3rd outfit that's coming soon and instead of wood, he will be a metal dummy. Jun has most of her moves intact plus Jin's sidestep dash uppercut. Rage has Heihachi's Death Fist and Hammer Punch, Kazuya's 4 sweep kicks and a whole bunch of his own moves. His throws so far sound bad as hell. One of them he picks you up with one hand around your throat, laughs and then punches you to the ground. Remember Kazuya's one throw where he kicks you twice horizontally? Well, Rage does the same one, only vertically. He kicks you up and on your way down he kicks you to the ground. Plus he also has one side throw which is a vicious choke slam. 18th of June 1997 from TC of Twisted Tekken. The following is the info from his brothers stationed in Korea which TC sent to Twisted Tekken. Rally is selectable. He took one of the ogre's spaces on the selection screen and now you can choose your ogre with kicks or punches. Rally's an African American guy. Paul's 3rd outfit is said to be Willie Williams, not confirmed. Confirmed characters are Kuma, Julia, Gunjak, Mokujin, Brian, Anna, Tiger, Heihachi, Ogre 1, Ogre 2, Rally, Kazuya, Lee, Rage, Kunimitsu, Armor King, Ganryu, and Jun. Rage is maybe a little bit bigger than Heihachi with black hair and a goatee. One outfit is a white gi similar to Paul's and the other is black pants like Kazuya's white ones and red gloves. 23rd of June, according to Marcy Davis. My brother is stationed in Korea and somehow the machine he plays there is ahead of a lot of other machines. The 2nd row is completely filled and there are 5 characters on a 3rd row. The 2nd row contains Lee, Brian, Heihachi, Ogre, Rally Jackson, who took Ogre 2 slot, now you can select him with the kick button, and yes, Rally was reportedly Eddie's name, but there is a character named Rally Jackson, who is an African American student of Paul Phoenix, Kuma, Julia, Mokujin, Gunjak, and Kazuya. That's not even the best part. The 3rd row so far contains Kunimitsu, Armor King, Ganryu, Jun Kazama, and Rage Mishima. My brother says that Jun handles like she does in Tekken 2 with a few new moves and she has Jin's sidestep uppercut. It goes on. 23rd of June 1997, according to Black Tims. Kazuya and Lee rumors finally totally confirmed. We want to believe. Kazuya Mishima is definitely in because I went to Jae Dong Kim's page. It said that he is next to Mokujin and under his son Jin. He even said he has a scar under his eye. Heihachi probably gave it to him. And then my friend Jay, who just recently went back to Korea from New York, said that Kazuya is back and looks a little older. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? A Korean arcade that has exclusive characters before Japan ever did. Certainly a lot of it is probably bogus, but it's staggering just how much information in these quotes is either correct or predictions. The scar under Kazuya's eye, Mokujin having a 3rd metal costume, and what was most interesting to me, the 3rd character row that has all of the returning Tekken 2 characters included, as well as Rage Mishima. Think for a moment. What Tekken game has an extra row in the character select screen with a bunch of returning Tekken 2 characters. That's right, Tekken Tag Tournament. Let's think back to earlier on in the iceberg. We know that both Jun and Kazuya were planned as characters of the arcade port, but were never finalized. Some other information that supports this theory is that Anna was a hidden character in the arcade port and didn't receive any unique moves until the console release. Now I'm going to share some final quotes and then share my final opinion. 24th of June 1997. From Twisted Tekken. Hello, I'm just back from E3 with a little bit of news. I ended up talking to one of the people who worked on the actual game as a producer, and he told me that he couldn't confirm or deny anything at all, including the number of characters. The only thing he did tell me is that Rage does not exist. That sucks. He also expressed regret that Namco made them release the game early. He said that there were a lot of things, characters and moves that couldn't be added due to the time constraints, i.e. Namco wanted their product now. Another Namco employee, I think the majority of them were Aladdin's Castle workers, smile, told me that he had heard that there are 27 characters and Jun, Lee and Wang are included. However, don't hold much stock in the last part. The only thing that I can confide in is what the producer of the game told me. At E3 there was no PlayStation Tekken 3 beta. However, the producer guy I talked to expected it to be US release by this Christmas or very early 1998. This is tentative, coming from a producer at Namco. And finally, 28th of June 1997, from Axel of Twisted Tekken. After reading that Rage isn't a real character, I got so fed up with the rumors I called Namco. I spoke to a producer called Mr. Namagashi, and from what he said there was another relative of the Mishimas in the game, and he said that Rage is a possibility, but he wouldn't say for sure. He also confirmed 30 plus characters in the game, but would only say that some characters that were believed dead could make an appearance. So as for the whole Rage thing, I think he's still in. Too many people have reported seeing him, and from what Mr. Namagashi said and how he sounded, he somewhat implied that Rage was in the game without actually saying he was. Isn't that interesting? I did a little digging and couldn't find a Namco producer by the name of Mr. Namagashi in the Tekken 3 credits, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't exist or never worked for Namco. How believable are these people? Well, maybe the guy's brother who was stationed in Korea isn't extremely believable, but it certainly seemed like Namco had very big plans for Tekken 3. It's very likely that Namco had always planned to bring all the old characters from Tekken 2 back, but either due to time constraints, the console release, or simply because it was impossible to fit with the story, Namco put the idea on hold and decided to bring all of the old characters back in Tekken Tag Tournament. So what of Rage Mishima? Was he really going to be a secret boss, or was it a fan rumor that got out of control? My theory is that the concept of Rage Mishima was eventually converted to become Jinpachi Mishima. Well, we may never know, but if anybody does know, it would be Harada-san. If you ever get the chance, ask him about Rage Mishima in Tekken 3. Mention Mr. Namagashi and mention the Korean arcade that had extra characters. And that is the Tekken iceberg. Thank you so much for watching. I make loads more cool Tekken and FGC videos, so if you like this and want to see more, subscribe below, hit the bell, and if you'd like to support me, I have lots of bonuses on Patreon, which you can check out in the description below. Take care.